Hi, and welcome back to the Sonoran Good Karma Cafe. Today we're going to talk about the benefits of practicing Buddhism. So when we practice Buddhism, it's very common that people experience benefits in their lives, like, their finances will improve or relationships will improve. Sometimes people overcome really serious health issues. So that's all well and good, I should say, but it actually goes deeper than that. And there's an article in this month's Living Buddhism, I have it around here somewhere, this magazine right here, that goes into it a little bit deeper. And so I wanted to discuss that. So guys, you ready to get started?
I'm ready, Jimmy.
Ready when you are, Jimmy. Let's go. So the article goes into Nichiren Daishonin talking about the word kudoku. Can somebody kind of break that down for us?
I can. So the first part, ku, it means good fortune or happiness, and also to wipe out evil. And then the second part, doku, it means to bring forth good. And so Nichiren Daishonin, he says that kudoku then means to attain Buddhahood.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Appreciate that. So the article goes, again, it talks about how Buddhism goes beyond just the external benefits like we get, like better finances and health and relationships. It talks about how when we are able to wipe out evil and bring forth good, that's how we reveal our own Buddha nature. So how do you think we should go about doing this, guys? Well, Nichiren Daishonin says that when we chant this Myoho Renge Kyo, that we elevate our life condition, and that's when we're able to overcome our delusions and our suffering, and then that's when our Buddhahood is able to shine through. The article also refers to, well, it says that in Buddhism, we call these delusions devilish functions, and it was saying that the devilish functions or these delusions, there's this constant battle going on in the depths of our lives between our own enlightened Buddha nature and these devilish functions. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, I think that's a great place to start. So, guys, what do you think are some of these devilish functions or delusions that people have that cause us to suffer? And then also, how can we use our Buddhist practice to overcome them?
I think fear causes a lot of people to suffer.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Sean. And I would say that anger causes a lot of suffering. And I'd say that greed causes a lot of suffering. Okay, great. So we know that in Buddhism, we talk about the 10 worlds or 10 different life states that people experience, and we call them worlds. And we know that 9 of these worlds have a positive and a negative side. So they can either cause us to suffer or they can cause us we can create value with them. Jack, can you go into that a little bit? Yeah, sure. So, Sean, you mentioned fear. So fear is associated with what we call the third world, the world of animality. And in that world, we fear the strong and we try to dominate the weak, right? So, so again, Buddhism is not about changing who we are. It's about bringing out the positive side of the characteristics that we already possess, right? So somebody that has that kind of fearful nature, for example, that could translate into them being a very careful, meticulous planner, like somebody who could be good at planning out really complex, detailed projects and carrying that out, or being a very good strategist, maybe. Or also, fear can translate to excitement. Somebody that has a kind of a fearful nature might find it challenging and exciting to become a public speaker, for example. I've noticed that a lot. People that kind of their worst fears turn out to be their greatest strength sometimes. So it works like that too.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Rex mentioned anger. How would that work?
Okay, yeah, sure. So anger is the fourth world, what we call the fourth world or life state that we all experience. So when we practice Buddhism, we elevate our life condition. Again, we're not trying to change who we are. If that's who we are, that's who we are. We just got to find the positive side of that world. So the world of anger is usually associated with a domineering ego or arrogance. Somebody they're very narcissistic. They can never be wrong about anything. So, but the positive side of that can be, when they find the positive side through Buddhist practice or whatever spiritual practice they're involved with, um, it works like that person could be a strong leader, right? Somebody that takes charge and other people can kind of lean on and rely on. So, um, does it make sense? It surely does, Jack. And how would you say that greed figures into all of this? Jimmy, you want to take this one? Yeah, sure. So the world of greed, right? That's the second world. We call it the world of hunger or insatiable desire. Now, in that world, you can't get enough. You just can't ever get satisfied. So we're not going to change the person, right? If that's their world, that's their world. But so how do we find the value in that world? So, okay, now, in Buddhism, there's a concept called dependent origination. And in dependent origination says that everything in the whole universe is connected, kind of like what they call the quantum field now or quantum entanglement. But so if everything's connected, what you give out is going to come back, and when you give something out, it benefits you too, right? If we're all connected. So that same person with insatiable desire, instead of wanting more and more for themselves, maybe now they want to have an insatiable desire to contribute to society and contribute to the world around them. So it's just an example of how it can work, right? Does it make sense? Yes, sir. It surely does, Jimmy.
Hey guys, so in psychology, they see that the first 7 years of our life, that determines a lot. It kind of that programming that we receive when we're young like that, it has a big effect on the rest of our life. Like when someone's abused as a child, for example, they tend to marry into an abusive relationship. Do you think Buddhism could help with something like that?
Well, I've always heard that our Buddhist practice affects our lives 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. And I truly believe that. So I would say that the answer would be absolutely yes.
I wonder how that could be.
Okay, so that's a kind of a tough one to get your head around, right? But the original Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, he revealed that in the distant, infinite past is when he attained Buddhahood. And so what it tells us is that our own Buddha nature, that part of ourself is eternal. That part of ourself is timeless. So maybe that has something to do with it. And then again, I think and then what you were talking about, like the child abuse and that, it's kind of a generational karma. So it affects families for generations, and then it can affect families for generations to come. So I think it all kind of goes together, if that makes any sense. Guys, I've been watching on YouTube lately some of these what they call near-death experiences, where people they die and then they come back, and they're very interesting. But what they all seem to have in common is that when they go to the other side like that, they say that there's no such thing as time like we have here on Earth. So it kind of goes along with what you're saying there, Jimmy.
Oh, that's interesting. So it is.
Very interesting. So now the article also says that besides challenging our own inner negative tendencies or devilish functions, whatever you want to call them, that we should also challenge evil in the outside world. So how should we go about doing that?
I think a lot of people feel kind of powerless. Like the problems of the world are just too big, and we're too small.
I think you're right there, Sean. There is a lot of apathy in our world today, but I just read this book and it really inspired me and gave me a lot of hope too.
Oh, what's the name of the book then?
It's called, the book is called Takedown, and it's by this young woman. Her name is Layla Mickelwaite, and she was an activist, and she was working in the area of human trafficking. And at some point, she discovered that there was this porn site called Pornhub, and they had all this child pornography on their site. And she was determined to, you know, make these people accountable for what was going on, because it was really horrific stuff. I'm no prude. I'm not against porn. You know, what two people, adults do, you know, between consenting adults, it's their business. But this was really horrific stuff, like actual rapes and torture and stuff like that. Just the worst of the worst. And so she took them on. And even when the victims would, you know, find out about it and ask Pornhub to take it down, they wouldn't take it down. They would drag their feet, sometimes for years, if they ever even took it down. And of course, you know, you can imagine why, right? I'm sure it was money, plain and simple. Huge money. At one point in the book, they referred to the guy that owned it as the Mark Zuckerberg of porn. I mean, huge money, but she wasn't intimidated. And I'm telling you, it's a real life David and Goliath story. Sounds a little bit scary. Oh, yeah, there were tons of death threats. And at one point, somebody hacked into her family's bank accounts. They stole their money. Um, Geez, and they even tried to discredit her, you know, in the media. And I don't know how, through some surreptitious means, they ended up accusing her of being in child pornography herself, distributing it. But she wasn't intimidated. She just kept pressing forward.
Oh, I wonder how one person could take on a big company like that with that kind of money and power.
Yeah, so what she did is she used Instagram. So she used Instagram to start making people aware of what was going on. And then she started a petition to get this company closed down. And at one point, when the petition got like I think it was around 1 million signatures, she started getting people's attention. And she got the attention of this really big, high-powered law firm in New York who started representing the victims. And then she got, you know, of course, the media started paying attention. So more and more people became aware of what they were doing. And then at some point, she got the Department of Justice involved. So they started investigating. So, yeah.
Did she win, Jack? Did the company close down? Did the executives did they go to jail?
Yeah, so she scored a big victory. So what happened is the company ended up having to take down about 80% of all the content that they had up on their site. And then finally, the credit card companies stopped processing payments from their advertisers, which really crippled the company financially. And then all these underage kids that had been, you know, people were doing all this horrible stuff and then putting it up on the site, they, you know, being represented by these high-powered law firms, they started getting really big settlements, so that at least they got financial compensation. And at least so far, then none of the executives from Pornhub went to jail. But actually, one of the companies that started or that was providing them with some of the porn videos, one of like 3 of their executives ended up going to prison. One of them was sentenced to 27 years in prison. So, you know, that's a pretty good sentence right there. So I think what you're saying is that we ordinary people, if we have enough courage and enough determination, that we can affect change, that we can battle against these evils in our world. You know, not only that, I think that the only way change will ever take place is through the efforts of ordinary people, grassroots efforts. Now, why do you say that, Jack? Yeah, so you remember I said that the credit card companies finally stopped processing their payments from their advertisers? Yep. Well, those credit card companies dragged their feet for months and months, even after she had presented them that there's child pornography on the site right then and there. It's not like it happened in the past. They still had it up on their site. They could easily go check it out, but they didn't care. They just wanted the money. And the only way that they finally, stopped processing those payments is because the Department of Justice got involved and they were threatening to press criminal charges against the executives of the credit card companies. Amazing, right?
Wow. Somebody should nominate that woman for a Nobel Peace Prize. That's what I say.
Wow, that's a great idea. I'd vote for her. So guys, what did we learn today? Well, I'd say that we learned that Buddhism only works if you have the guts to stand up for justice on the outside world, and if you have the guts to look at your own shortcomings.
Oh, I'd say you summed it up pretty good there, Rex.
Yeah, there's a quote in the writings of Nichiren Daishonin. He says that even the mighty sword of the Lotus Sutra is useless in the hands of a coward. Speaking of the Lotus Sutra, let's not forget our old friend Bodhisattva Never Disparaging, right? I just think it's important that when we're standing up against evil and injustice and things, that we don't let our own hearts become full of hate. Because then if we're hating the haters, we become haters ourselves, right? So, and besides, what Bodhisattva Never Disparaging says is that even the haters, and I'm paraphrasing here, even the haters will one day be on the Bodhisattva path and will attain Buddhahood. So take it for what it's worth. I think that's a good note to end it on, Jimmy. All right then. Well done, guys. Appreciate everybody's contribution. And to our listeners out there, thanks very much for staying with us all the way to the end. And I hope you'll stop by the Sonoran Good Karma Cafe again in the future. Take care.